programmed 7 songs on Michael Jackson's Thriller album back in 1983, and I'm here again with the Synclavier 2 original keyboard that was on the session, and I'd like to show you how we created that sound. It's one of the most complex sounds on all of Thriller, and we'll show you why. It's very interesting that a bass sound like this would be, and I'm here with my new friend Ernest Tibbs to add the Louis Johnson part to the equation. And I found out that Ernest was a big fan and still is a big fan of Louis Johnson.
Yes. Huge fan. I don't think there's a week that goes by without listening to the Brothers Johnson or any of the tracks that Louis played on.
Not a week.
Not even a week. All the time.
So I'll break this down for you. There's regular bass, electric bass, and that bass is doubled with a mini Moog, we believe. I've talked to Greg Phillinganes about this, and this is about the closest approximation that I could remember, and Greg remembers playing something, so we think it's this. And the mini Moog, it's basically a little bit brighter than a triangle waveform. It sounds kind of like a distorted bass, and it just plays a syncopated beat on the roots. And when it goes up to the B section, and it gives the bass a little push. So we'll give you an example of what that is. Why don't you hit the drums, and let's try it. 1, 2, 3. A little hum, right? One more time. All right. Okay, so I'd like to take a minute to remind you to please like and subscribe to this channel if it's entertaining or helping you in any way. And now let's get back to the rest of the Billie Jean breakdown. Now there's some interesting things happening because Michael always wanted to have unusual sounds on Thriller. So we had this Synclavier. It's a digital music system basically that focuses on FM synthesis, which is additive synthesis and not subtractive synthesis like these synthesizers that have filters where you can subtract harmonics. So let me show you what's going on in the Synclavier. There's different components. There are 4 different components to the sound. Component 1, component 2. A little brighter, shorter, a little punchier. Then there's a little attack. And then my favorite, the digital hash. And it doesn't matter like what notes you play, it's always the same digital hash. So it's almost like a percussion instrument, right? It's just sort of going throughout the thing. And you really, if you solo, if you put headphones on and listen to the song, you'll start to pick up these little nuances. So again, this component with this component with the attack and the digital hash make up, here's just the attack and the digital hash. Right?
Right.
Like percussion.
Yes.
And then a little bit of funky tone. But a lot different than a synthesizer that we knew of. Now we're going to focus on the 4th component of the sound, which is analog synthesizer. And you can hear what's going on. There's a little bit of decay time, about medium length decay, a little sustain, as opposed to, so it's not. A little bit of sustain to carry through, a little release time, so it isn't so clipped, and then, modulating the filter to where the sound kind of speaks a little bit of resonance, and then directly to the filter. We're not using a VCA at all. So the filter just goes straight out to the mixer. And the way I'm getting this thing to trigger is I'm sending a keyboard control voltage, gate, you can see it back here. Let's take a look. There's down here keyboard control voltage, right here is a gate and a trigger. So I follow these cables over to here, and you can see the keyboard control voltage goes to the oscillator, the gate goes into the gate input, and the trigger into the trigger input. So then whenever I play a note on the keyboard, I'm getting a trigger and a gate, and I'm also getting the control voltage to the oscillator so that it tracks pitch. So when you add this sound, here's the digital part without the analog. And now here's just the analog. Now let's hear the digital and the analog, and I'll start bringing the analog in. Without it, with it. You mainly hear it up higher, thinner, right? Gives it a little bit of body. And you put it all together, and you're still missing something. Let's show them what it is.
All right.
So you put it all together. Ernest Tibbs on electric bass, Mini Moog on accent bass, Synclavier on FM character Michael Jackson unusual bass with Fair for the Day analog funky bass. You have a very complicated bass sound, very iconic bass sound, something that at the time I would say for sure only Michael and Quincy, and Rod together could come up with an idea like this and make it work, because we were limited on tracks and all that sort of thing, and they were able to bounce things around and make it work out. And true to a lot of things on Thriller, there's like a lot of simple things that come together. This is a rare case where there's some complicated things coming together that make up for a fairly simple kind of sound.
Right.
That influenced people for a long, long time. So there you have it, Michael Jackson's Billie Jean bass line.